5 funded outsourced projects, that one person could have brought expertise to either reduce the consultant cost or completely remove. We didn't take that part of the conversation, and we didn't ask staff to do that. So they presented a budget without any of those questions. That's the thing that we need to look at, is what happened is a lot of questions got asked during this process. We thought we wanted to do it one way, and what happened is when they did it that way, there weren't enough people that said that's not actually how I want to do it. So it made a lot of what happened, a lot of the conversation be a moot point, and we need to readdress how we're going to tackle this looking at 2016. That starts to happen now because staff has to prepare themselves, and if it's, we need a list of expenditures so we can do a check mark, yes, no consensus vote, then that's what they need to know to present to us. It's a completely different way for us to plan, and unfortunately, we didn't give staff an opportunity to do that in any way. We did it at a late hour instead of progressively and proactively trying to get that ahead of time with some of the things that we could have. So now we're stuck in that hole. But again, it comes back to me where reducing the taxes is great when everything's fully funded or even adequately funded, which we can all agree there's several areas that aren't. But by cutting the things that we did cut for next year's budget, we didn't create long-term savings. We saved on this year's budget, which will be fine, but those lost revenues won't be able to be cut the same sort of programs in the 2016 budget. So you cut it once, you can't cut that piece again. So now you're either going to have to hope for the revenues to be higher, which is, Steve has said he thinks it's going to happen, and if not, then he'll do what we have to do to overcome that. Or you cut services. You say, okay, now we're not going to offer this, or it may come from staffing. It may be whatever it happens to be. That's where you're going to have to find those savings in the future, because you can't find the savings we have this year in another budget. And that's the problem that we painted ourselves into. That's the corner where it got to for me.
If I have the opportunity to respond to Mr. Freeman, I appreciate it.
I was going to give Tori an opportunity if she had anything to say, but if she does not.
Well, I don't really have a question per se, but looking at the out-year projections, even the 18 didn't totally scare me, because I pulled up all the other budgets, and some of the past years we've had lower percents, and I think the 19 is so far out that you just said it was kind of a placeholder, kind of a, so that didn't really concern me. I agree with you. I think that this is ongoing. I mean, yes, we cut the 235,000 from what we could this year, but there might be some other cuts. I mean, you always need to be on the lookout for that. And I know we have some projects we have to fund. I agree with that, but I feel comfortable with our reduction that we did there this year, and I feel like we can be creative and find other reductions and still fund things in the out years. So I didn't have a question. It was more my statement.
And just, I mean, I realize we've got Larry coming in 5 minutes, but he's missed all the discussion so far. I mean, based on what staff brought back, I mean, are we in support of what this, what staff's brought back, or are we wanting to look at different directions?
Well, I wanted to respond very quickly to Heath, and if that's...
No, actually, I'm kind of looking for, you know, let's get a little consensus call here first.
No, I'm not. I think there needs to be more work done on this. I think that on the out years, there's got to be some additional reductions.
Christy, do you think this requires more work?
I mean, for the out years, I don't know that we can do anything right now. We don't have any I mean, all this is projections. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but our focus is 2015. So whatever we do in 2015 will then realistically be applied and impact the out years. And it's, my perspective is, and I mean, this is exactly where I'm going to go with it. I think that money can be better spent. I will not support a budget that takes that money out, me personally, and I also think that a better approach to this is to say, set a target and say in 2017, when a lot of our debt starts falling off, which is why we had the mill increase in 2010, we start planning to set a goal to reduce the mill at that point in time and work toward a budget budgets in the future years that support that. That's my...
Okay, so Steve wants to continue working on it. You don't want to reduce the mill levy. Heath?
Well, I think what staff presented to us tonight is exactly what the consensus was to have to be given to us tonight. So in that case, obviously I wasn't on the side of the consensus that night. That's not changed, but they've done what we've been asked, what was asked of them. So obviously I think that's where it stands with me.
Tori?
I feel like I kinda already stated, I'm fine with what staff presented us now, and I feel like the out years, yes, there's gonna need to be maybe some reductions or different planning, but that's gonna be ongoing, and I don't know that since these are kind of hypothetical numbers, I don't know, I mean, I guess we could hypothetically cut them, but I don't know that that's gonna serve us any good until the year, you know, when we're actually on that year. So I'm fine with what they presented, and I'm fine with the percent for the out years.
What can we do to bring you up to speed, Councilman? Have you-
I'm assuming we're talking about the 1.76.
1.728?
728, mill reduction, and.
Well, and also what was proposed, what staff brought back, what we asked them to. I think everybody agrees that they brought back what we asked them to. And
Just what it did to the.
what it's done to, the projections, including the fund balances for years extending out to 2019. I mean, are you, comfortable with that? I believe that, Councilman Shute would like to see more cuts instituted in 16 through 19.
On what base? I mean, the thing I keep coming back to is, it's a one-year budget. This is a 2015 budget,
That's
it's not a
correct.
2016 and 17, or 2015 through 17, it's 1 year.
You're correct.
And we just have to, I mean, if I were on the other side of this argument, the first thing I would bring up is that we can't possibly reduce it for 1 year because it affects all the other 4 years behind it. I mean, that's a great defensive strategy, and I'm not saying it's not genuine, but the reality is it's a 1 year budget, and things could get grossly worse, things could get, markedly better. And we're just gonna have to be brave in future years and do what's necessary. But I think this gets us on a track of pay as you go and not, build the budget up. And plus, I mean, we only cut the things that really we're not ready for anyway. And I think a lot of the things that we cut were also things that really most people here weren't in favor of.
Oh, well, there's things that we cut that I think people weren't in favor of, but I can say that the downtown district plan was, in the marketing and rebranding, were both, budget initiative priorities this year. I mean, right outside my office in the back, the easel still sits with everybody's little dots. Both of those projects got 4 dots, along with the aquatic center.
And that's the problem I had with that whole process, is it was pretty simple and not really in-depth. That we were asked a series of questions with multiple choice answers, and then when we chose an answer, what came after that, we really didn't have much control over it. So,
Yeah.
that's why I think, I think if anything, the fact that the majority on the council changed their minds speaks to the fact that the process was flawed to begin with.
Now, to go back to what we were speaking about here, you're okay with the, everything else being static on this budget, other than the, mill decrease?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of questions that I had planned to ask at the last meeting. Just, general, can't tell where this came from and things like that. So if you want me to ask those questions, I always believe there's more to be cut, and this gets to the heart of why, if we had more time to spend on this, I think we'd find other things.
Okay. But I guess, do you think that you're gonna find more to cut in 16, 17, 18, and 19?
Well, I don't know.
Because
I guess
that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Again,
But-
it's a
but-
one-year budget, so
This is what I wanted to say,
Right.
if I could please say what I was gonna say. And I know you've been not allowing me to say it, but I'd like to say it.
Well,
If
actually,
individuals, if we
Councilman.
can't have it both ways. We can't have it both ways. We can't say that this is a one-year budget, 2015, that's all we can look at, because that's all the detail that's in 2015, okay? And then say, well, 16, 17, 18, 19, they matter, they're relevant, but that's not something that we can focus on. And I don't understand how both could